Hi everyone. It's January 29th and welcome to another episode of The Breakdown. What a crazy week it's been in Alberta politics. For real. No really. For real.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of The Breakdown. It's January 29th, 2023. We're starting off with a little bit of fun. For those of you that tagged in right at the get-go, you might have noticed we had a little bit of a new introduction that we're playing with tonight. Might seem a little strange, but the reason why we did that is because it has been quite literally a bit of an unreal week in Alberta politics. And the reason why it starts off on this fun little note is because earlier this week, for reasons that, let's go with, justify pretty much all of the things, the Alberta Party, who have been struggling with their getting their message out there, decided to go ahead and try something new. Here's what the Alberta Party did this week.
Alberta need a third political party. It depends on whether or not you're happy with your current choices. If the UCP or NDP is the party for you, that's just fine. It's time to support building the Alberta Party, so you have another choice.
Now, there's a lot to unpack there, and the jokes pretty much write themselves. But for anybody who's not certain, let me be clear: that is a AI program. So that's a program that you can get through a company. The company's called Synthesia, I believe it's pronounced. And you just type in your little script for them, and you can choose, if you decide to pay for it, you can choose to have that AI avatar. You can set the background. The AR avatar will say whatever you want to say, however stilted or unreal it might look. Didn't take long after the Alberta Party posted before longtime Alberta politics commentator Dave Cornier weighed in and said, not sure where to file this, but the Alberta Party posted a video endorsement from an AI on Instagram yesterday and then removed it after the commentators pointed out it wasn't a real person. To which the Alberta Party then replied, well, Dave, you're right. We did remove it, but not because we were trying to hide anything. We tried something new and it turned out to be bad. So we decided to reshoot it with real party members behind the message. When you make a mistake, you try and make it better. So props to the Alberta Party for taking it on the chin. But before they did, there was a little bit of a heated back and forth that went on there. I mean, there is a fundamental question to be asked: why anyone would watch that video and go, this seems like a good idea. Especially when the Alberta Party does have a couple candidates that are nominated. They do have a leader who does make videos fairly regularly, but instead they decided to get into a fight with Dave Cornier on the Twitter machine. But what we don't think either party's realized is that there was video footage as well of that epic battle between Dave and the Alberta Party's AI. We were able to obtain it.
Still got the greatest enthusiasm and confidence in the mission. And I want to help you. Dave, stop.
Daisy. Give me your answer, too.
I'm sure we're going to get flagged for copyright infringement on that, but it was too good to pass up. It'll be interesting to see. We looked for the reshoot of the video. We haven't seen it yet. So hopefully when they do, they'll have a real live person shoot the video, and then we'll be able to say some more things. Moving on from there, there were some other things that also happened this week. Biggest one, perhaps, Tyler Shandros the start of the week, he had his hearings with the Law Society. For anybody who's been paying attention for any length of time, you know that there were three things that Tyler Shandros got hauled in front of the Law Society for. One of them was calling out the doctor in his driveway. One of them was obtaining a physician's phone number through pathways that even AHS has said were not appropriate. And another was sending an email in a response to an email that has been sent to his wife's company. He sent it from his work account as the Minister of Health and said to the person, maybe I'm going to stick the legislative security on you if you don't stop and leave me alone. All of this came about because Mr. Shandros was in the process of privatizing and cutting back healthcare coverage at the same time as his wife owns a company that provides healthcare services. So there were some people who had some questions. The Law Society hearing was it was a bizarre little affair because it seemed like most of the time, certainly on the first day, was spent with Tyler Shandros' lawyer arguing with the physician who had Tyler Shandros show up in his driveway. And the point of contention was, but did he cry? Which is a little bit bizarre. We talked about it on the last episode, but things got a little bit more problematic. Because during the testimony that was going on, one of the things that happened was there's a little bit of a complicating legal factor thrown into the mix. And it turns out that because of that complicating legal factor, as well as a few other things went longer than they expected. The hearings have now been delayed for a date that hasn't been set yet. This is the second delay that we've seen with these hearings. At least we got the hearings started this time. So that's a step in the right direction. But when it comes to what the problem was, one of the big problems is it turns out as Mr. Shandros was answering questions, he answered a question where he provided in public testimony. So this was broadcast to anybody who had signed into the Zoom meeting. It was broadcast in front of a room full of reporters, as well, a virtual room full of reporters, because a lot of reporters were live tweeting it. He disclosed some private health information, potentially, allegedly, in regards to one of the witnesses. So one of the witnesses was speaking to her previous relationship with Tyler Shandros in regards to professional things. And in the course of that conversation, in the course of that testimony, Mr. Shandros said something. Now, we weren't watching the hearings, and from what we saw, all of the reporters did an amazing job of not repeating it, but it was actually one of the reporters who's been heavily involved in some of the biggest stories regarding the UCP government, Charles Russell, who caught it. Now, he caught a couple other things during the course of the testimony as well, because when the physician was speaking about his encounter with Mr. Shandros in the driveway, the lawyer misrepresented how the physician got in touch with Mr. Russell, who wrote the story in the first place. The lawyer tried to make it sound like the physician went out of his way to look for it, and Mr. Russell was very, very clear. I had to talk the guy into it. It was like a 40-minute conversation, and I had to emphasize how important it was that people were aware of what was actually going on. That's why he came forward, and it was only because I got a tip from somebody who heard the story. The physician wasn't looking for this. I had to talk him into it. So Mr. Russell has been doing an excellent job of covering the overarching narrative of this story, and he was the one who caught that this was accidentally was released, and he wrote a story on the tie in it. Now, as we said again, because of that, and because there were a couple of people who didn't get to testify because things went so long, there's some rulings that the board of the Law Society need to make in order to figure out how to proceed, because it's turned into an absolute dumpster fire. So it's great big, stay tuned. In the meantime, Tyler Shandros remains the Justice Minister of Alberta, who has this hearing hanging over him for legal stuffs. Moving on from there. Province made some announcements about insurance. So the province said, hey, you know what? Insurance, it's gotten crazy expensive. It's no good. People shouldn't be paying this much for insurance. Something should be done. And so they announced that they were not going to approve any new rate increases for insurance companies. They did say, you know what, though, we did approve some other ones. So some of y'all might still see your insurance rates going up, but we're not approving anymore. So things should hopefully get under control any day now. But there's some really important context that needs to be set here. So one of the pieces of context is it's entirely the UCP's fault that the insurance rates went up. When the NDP were in power, they put in a rule saying insurance rates could only go up by a set amount for a set period. When the UCP got into power, they let that set period expire, and they basically removed the caps, which meant insurance companies could then go to the government and say, hey, we'd like to increase Timmy's insurance by 300%. That's cool, right? And depending on the circumstances, the government said, yeah, you know what? That's totally fine. You go ahead and improve it. And this has led to Alberta having the highest rates for auto insurance in the entire country. There was an Ernst & Young report that was done back in October that took a look at a variety of different situations to see, well, comparatively, how bad would the insurance rates be when you take a look at insurance across the provinces? And they're actually really bad. So according to the Ernst & Young report, an 18-year-old man with a novice license and a 2012 Honda Civic LX would pay in BC $2,500, in Saskatchewan $1,100, in Ontario $5,100, Nova Scotia $4,800, Alberta $5,900. A 30-year-old woman with 14 years driving experience, a recent at-fault crash, and an F350. In most of the other provinces, she's paying between $2,000 and $3,000. In Alberta, $4,800. A 40-year-old woman with 24 years driving experience and a 2017 Ford Escape Special Edition would pay almost $2,000. The next closest province would be Ontario with $1,500. And they had a whole list of examples that they ran through. And in every single one, the person who's living in Alberta is paying more. And it's really important to highlight the fact that that's precisely because the UCP set up the system so that companies could charge more. Period. That's the ballgame. One of the other stories that came out in the unending what's going on with the prosecutor service question had to do with the specifics of the search. Now, it's really important to highlight that the search that the Danielle Smith initiated. We'll do a quick little recap for anybody here who hasn't been following. I suspect most of you have, so if I am boring you, I apologize. But quick little recap. Accusations have been made against the Smith government, according to CBC, who's using confidential sources, not anonymous sources. And that's there's an important difference there. CBC knows who they are. They've talked to the people. They've identified who they are. They're confident in their sources. It's not like it's just an envelope slipped under the door. According to these sources, Danielle Smith's office has repeatedly pressured multiple departments into making changes in regards to prosecutions that had to do with health matters, and particularly around the Coutts border crossing. Now, CBC has said, hey, we've got these people, we're protecting them because they don't want to lose their jobs and stuff. Danielle Smith has come back and said, it's totally unsubstantiated. There's no evidence of anything. CBC came back and said, well, we've got this letter from Ezra Levant that says that you guys met and talked about exactly this. And Ezra told you could do these things. And Ezra said, yep, I wrote that letter. So things are getting substantiated, but Smith has maintained that there's absolutely nothing to the allegations that exist in these two now CBC stories. In order to prove her innocence, Danielle Smith announced that a weekend ago that a massive search of government emails was going to take place. They were going to rule out that there was any communication between a government email account and another government email account. Now, the terms of the search were very vague. We still don't know how it was searched. We don't know what the search terms were. They've been very quiet about that. We also know for a fact that the UCP government has a tendency of using alternative records management, let's say. So they use all kinds of different ways to communicate with different people that aren't government emails, because government emails are FOIPable. And as you might remember a couple of years ago, even from the bit that we did on the mask procurement, when they're talking within those channels, they can get themselves into trouble. Well, they didn't look at any of those alternative channels. They only looked at government emails. And shockingly, they didn't find anything. Well, as we get more distance from the date of the search, one of the things that we've learned is that the deleted emails might be a little bit more tricky. So initially it was reported that deleted emails only stay in the system for 30 days. So what that meant was deleted emails could potentially, you'd only be able to go back to December 22nd. Anything that was deleted before then, you wouldn't be able to see. Given that all of this stuff allegedly happened in October, anything that was deleted, poof, gone. Well, there was an article that came out from the Star where they said, well, actually, you know what? We talked to some IT guys and some other sources, and they said, hey, you know what? It's actually close to, it's 60. Could be 60. It's also been reported that it could be as high as 90. So we don't know what's going on with the search. And the Smith government continues to be incredibly not transparent about how the search was done, what was included, what wasn't included, what deleted stuff was covered, what deleted stuff wasn't covered. There hasn't been any communication about any of those things, which doesn't go a long way to, let's say, building confidence in the quality of the search. Excuse me. And when we top all of this up with the fact that CBC has been able to produce and continues to produce documentation that says, well, you know what, some of the things that we said, yeah, we actually can back them up. And the fact that Ezra Levant from the Rebel News was quick to save his reputation and publish the email before CBC published the email and put the email up for everybody to see. And you can't see that the Rebel commander, who's a journalist, not a practicing lawyer, met with Marshall Smith and Danielle Smith and apparently offered them some version of legal advice. It just leaves more questions than anything else. We're going to talk a little bit more about some other Danielle Smith stuff in a little bit. But before we do, I want to draw your attention to an incredibly powerful column that was written by an Edmonton ER doctor. This Edmonton ER doctor is named Dr. Shazma Mithani. I apologize if I'm not getting the pronunciation right. But she has been a fairly public voice for healthcare throughout the pandemic. And she penned this article, and she talks about what she and many other healthcare workers are seeing inside of the healthcare system. And it's burnout, and it's exhaustion, and it's fatigue, and it's disappointment. And it all comes from the fact that healthcare is experiencing system-wide system failure. One of the things that she highlights as a narrative in the article is the fact that people say, well, you signed up for this. And the reality is, overwhelmingly, healthcare workers did not sign up to be inside of a system that wasn't only not going to support them appropriately, but not support patients appropriately. And that creates a huge amount of moral injury. And it makes it very, very hard for healthcare workers not only to keep themselves healthy, but to stay inside of the healthcare system. Now, one of the things that Dr. Mithani argues for is we need more in healthcare in Alberta. We need more than just Band-Aids. We need more than just window dressing. We need actual system change. We need conversations about system change. If you're somebody who cares about healthcare workers, if you're somebody who cares about healthcare, if you have somebody who accesses the healthcare system, or if you think that you might at some point access the healthcare system yourself, spoiler alert, you will. The article's titled, Doctors Face Significant Rates of Burnout If Our System Is Not Fixed Soon. It's by Dr. Shazma Mithani, and it is a powerful, powerful read. Only takes a couple minutes, but it's an inside look inside of the healthcare system, and it's absolutely worth taking the time to take a look at. Moving on from there. Danielle Smith. We're told she's allegedly on vacation right now, but before she went on vacation, she had some thoughts that she wanted to share with the Prime Minister. Anybody who's been paying attention knows that Danielle Smith has been getting as much mileage out of the just transition, I try to say it like her now, as she possibly can. So she's been talking about how it's going to eliminate 2.7 million jobs. That's not true. Again, for the cheap seats, that's the number of people who work in the sectors that are conceivably going to be impacted by the global transition to a greener, low-carbon economy. There's 2.7 million Canadians who work in those sectors. Doesn't mean there's 2.7 million jobs that are going to get eliminated. Period. But Danielle Smith has been doing a great job getting all of her MLAs to do little videos talking about, hey, you know what? It's just going to be the worst thing ever. This just transition, it's going to destroy everything. Justin Trudeau wants to destroy our energy industry. That's all he's interested in doing. We will fight back. We will not give any ground. All of those things. Well, she sent the Prime Minister a letter. And in that letter, she said a couple of things. She had some demands. And those demands were, she had some objectives she wanted to reach. So she wants to substantially decrease Canada's and Alberta's net emissions. She wants to accelerate private and public investment in projects and infrastructure that will utilize and develop carbon capture, utilization, and storage, and a bunch of other things. Attracting a growing larger skilled workforce to fill positions in the conventional energy sector, as well as emerging industries using the technology cited above. Which is a weird thing because one of the things that we've heard from industry and we've seen in multiple industry reports is as automation and efficiency takes a greater foothold in those conventional energy sectors, there's going to be less jobs available. And significantly through the lens of global emissions reduction, increasing the exports of liquid natural gas and other responsibly developed conventional oil and natural gas resources. Then we get to the demands. We have to drop the verbiage of just transition and accordingly rename the Just Transition Act to the Sustainable Jobs Act. So Danielle Smith, as the Premier of Alberta, is now trying to dictate to the Prime Minister what the act should be named. Because she likes changing the names of acts after they've been committed to Alberta Sovereignty Act. What? Vow that all provisions of any forthcoming legislation will be designed to incentivize investment and job growth in both the conventional energy sector as well as in the emerging industries. Lists them off again. That's what the Just Transition piece is all about: protecting jobs, moving people into jobs that will be sustainable. Demonstrate that no provision of the act will be designed to phase out or reduce Alberta's conventional oil and gas natural gas sector and workforce. Here's the thing. They've said that, and if you just waited for the legislation to come out, the first copy of the bill, then you'd know for sure. But instead, Danielle Smith decided to politicize the thing, and it hasn't even been produced in the House of Commons or in Parliament yet. It hasn't been presented yet. Nobody knows what the text is yet. But Danielle Smith has decided what she thinks the text is going to be about, despite what the federal government has said to the contrary. Commit your government to actually actively partnering with Alberta to expand liquid natural gas exports to Asia and Europe as part of our nation's overall emissions reduction strategy, and promise, pinky swear, that you and your government will work with Alberta in partnership to set reasonable and meaningful emissions reductions targets and not unilaterally impose such targets on Alberta's energy, agriculture, and other industrial sectors on a go-forward basis. Trying to, apparently, open up the door to relitigate the carbon tax, which has been ruled on by the Supreme Court. So there's that. One other thing that we wanted to talk about, and then we're going to open it up to the floor. Hopefully Sarah Biggs is going to be joining us once again. And the thing we got to talk about, we got some heat on the Twitter machine over this little piece right here. There's some people that were a little bit bothered by it. New poll by Main Street Research came out, and it raised some interesting things. Now, yes, we know we should take up Main Street's poll results with Mayor Bill Smith. We've made that joke too. But there are some things that are in the poll that are interesting and that are worth potentially talking about. It's a small sample size for sure. But one of the questions is, if a provincial election were held today, how would you vote? So this is basically a popular vote equation. And what the popular vote of this poll says is that 43% of Albertans would vote for Danielle Smith, 39% would vote for the NDP, 6% would vote for the Alberta Party, and then we get into some smaller numbers. But it's the demographics that are particularly interesting, because when we start to look at how who lands where with the UCP and NDP, the UCP supporters, largely men. The education level of UCP supporters, largely lower. Now, there's a lot of people who take a we got some comments on that where people are like, "Oh, you're being classist." And if this were an outlier, if this were the only poll that has historically said, you know what, people who tend to be more socially conservative tend to have, not as an absolute, lower education levels. Nobody's saying that that quantifies with intelligence or skill or value as human beings. We're certainly not saying that. But there is a correlation between education level and how much one prioritizes social conservatism and fiscal conservatism over social progress, social compassion, those sorts of things. One of the other questions that came up that was quite interesting was for all voters. So the first one was decided voters. The second one is for all voters. If a provincial election were held today, how would you vote? For all voters, 41% said UCP, 37% said NDP. But the big part is there's 11% that are undecided. And that's going to be, even if that's not accurate within a couple of points, it is consistent with quite a few polls that have been coming out recently. One of the things that we've seen across the province is the NDP's numbers have slowly been ticking down and the UCP numbers have slowly been ticking up. And this is before we're still like 2 days away from the Danny Bucks. And as people start to receive that, especially given who the typical UCP supporters are, according to those demographics and other demographics in the polls, we're talking about rural voters. We're talking about older voters. We're talking about more affluent voters. It's going to be very interesting to see what the polling numbers come out after that point, because we're very likely going to see some fascinating changes going on there. As always, we want to go ahead and open up the floor to anybody who has any comments on the Twitter Spaces, because we established we've got proof of concept on being able to get people to talk in. If you think that you've got some comments that you might want to share over there, not just in the comments, I see the comments in the chat are already on fire. While we wait for Sarah Biggs to get here, I'm going to try to go through some of these. But I also want to say that we've got some stuff coming up here pretty quick. We've been talking about a piece that we've been working on for a while. And that piece has to do with a certain right-wing media outlet that has grown exponentially over the last 3-4 years. Kind of started up, depending on which version of history you want to choose, in 2015 or 2017. There's a little bit of fluidity going on there. Well, we're just about done. We're going to be dropping it for our Patreon sponsors on Wednesday. And it's a deep dive on this particular media organization, but it's one that we had a lot of fun with, because as we went through it, it turns out there was a lot of fun to be had, because as we worked our way through the history of this media organization, we discovered that there were some twists and turns that were absolutely just ridiculous. So we had a little bit of fun with it. We've done our first field piece that we've done in a couple of years, really. And that was also a boatload of fun. It's going to be dropping publicly on Friday, and it's probably going to get some folks talking. So look out for that. In the meantime, looks like we've got us Sarah Biggs. Sarah, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Thank you for asking. You've got the microphone out.
Is the sound better?
It is much better, but I'll leave it to the comments to really put that verdict in.
Sorry, I when you sent me ETA question mark, I was fighting for this to sit in. Anyways, long story.
Okay, cool. Well,
how are you?
That's all that matters. I'm fantastic. I got some questions that I want to ask you. I
Me
sure
too.
do.
Me too.
So first question is, let's talk about the Shandy hearings. So we talked a bit about it on Wednesday because things hadn't turned into the complete dumpster fire that they turned into on Thursday. But Tyler Shandros disclosed some information, some private information that he wasn't supposed to disclose whilst on the stand. There's some debate as to, here's my thing. Like, I'm not a legal beagle or anything like that. By no means am I a legal expert, nor do I pretend to be
Me
clear.
neither.
But it struck me as kind of odd that it wasn't on cross-examination that Mr. Shandros had his oopsie. It was his own lawyer who was asking the questions that he oopsied on. So we have a lawyer asking the questions, we have a lawyer answering the questions, and somehow still we were able to disclose information that we shouldn't have at a hearing about obtaining information that we shouldn't have. The hearings have been suspended from a like, here's what my question is. We have a minister of health who has allegations against him.
Yeah.
The facts of which largely are agreed upon, except for whether or not he cried. And we see in this case, this hearing, he does apparently exactly the thing that he's been accused of. Why is he still Justice Minister?
They don't have anyone else.
I mean, that's probably right.
Well, no, you would have Minister Savage, but she's busy with her files, and maybe she didn't want it to.
I can understand why somebody wouldn't want to tap in, given the history of Justice Ministers with the government.
I would not want to be Justice Minister from Daniel Smith government, but that's just my personal opinion, not my
That's like the worst game of hot potato.
Maybe he's doing a fine job in the background. Who knows? He seemed to be very emotional during his hearing, and it's always difficult for everyone when you're being interrogated and you're being questioned. Everybody's like, "Oh, I'm emotional." I don't know why he's still Justice Minister. Like, it's strike 3 now.
Zaid points out that there is at least one other lawyer on the bench for the UCP.
No, he won't do it.
Which one?
Brian G.
No. S Club.
Milliken. Yeah.
I mean, God help us all.
He's young. He's very young. Yeah. No, there's a few, but honestly, AG right now is like one of the worst jobs dealing, and it also depends in which camp you're sitting. So here's the issue. She needs somebody that will agree to her wanted to do the things she wants to do, because a lot of MLAs, I'm not saying who was for the Alberta Sovereignty Act, was on board for, let's look into, pardoning a whole bunch of people. Good Archer here, poor
Plane
Art.
loads of ambassador tourists.
I don't think, and there's a lot of people that was willing on taking on the hat, and it's just for a matter of continuity and consistency now.
But isn't one of Smith's fundamental problems in regards to filling the role of Justice Minister, and in particular, because it's not Justice Minister, I don't believe has to be a lawyer. Attorney General does. I could be wrong about that. But to have an Attorney General, you can't really have I don't know what's the word, competent lawyer who's going to be able to agree with the things that Smith wants to do, because
competent or incompetent doesn't matter. It's all a matter of personal ideology in there, right? It's the COVID vendetta. It's if you're worried that your seat's at risk. It's you want to make sure you still have a job in the Smith cabinet. It's a whole bunch of things. Did you have files that were being continued? We do not know what happened, those discussions, the day following Smith's victory between all of the ministers and the MLAs and what happened in the background. I can have a good idea of what happened in the background, but as much as I would like to say this is why he's still there, it's extremely difficult because there's a lot of things that we're not aware of or that we really don't want to hear about in the background.
One of the things that I found interesting is that in the CBC stories, they've been very clear that Shandro and co, they were the ones pumping the brakes. I mean, so as much as it's fun to make fun of Shandro, and it's a lot of fun to make fun of Shandro, I go back to the many music videos and the rap song that came out in the early days of the Shandro health minister debacle. So it's pretty low hanging fruit. But the reality is all indications are, it seems like one of the possible timelines is Smith met with whoever she met with, including and not limited to Ezra Levant, who gave her maybe legal advice.
Oh, and I checked on his lobbying status. I digged into it. No,
is he a lobbyist?
So no. So basically, to meet the lobbying threshold, you're gonna do like 100 hours. So there's different thresholds, and he's not meeting the criteria for lobbyists.
Fair enough. But one of the other things is the piece that I think is important with the Levant thing is a lot of journalists have come up and said, meeting with the premier to offer policy advice as a journalist is like so far across the line, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, but he doesn't know any better. The guy got barred from practicing on Alberta. Like, and I don't want to be sued here.
Mr. Levant has said on in court that what he practices isn't journalism, it's entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, he's got some wiggle room there, I guess.
Two entertainers meeting. That's great.
It's no big deal. Two entertainers walk into the legislature,
no,
and the province is engulfed in flames.
But you know what, Shandro, also, you got to think that there's an interpretation of risk and obligation to the professional society as well. So there was a lot behind it. Like, it's really, really, really heavy. We can do like really kind of superficial commentary, but I'm sure that there's, how could I say, there's probably some files that needed some continuity that he was working on. That's number one. That's one of my assumptions. And I'm not trying to, I'm just saying. Two, he was one of the very few, I would assume, that, and that's my personal judgment too, that would accept to work on the premier's agenda. It's not a matter of being a good lawyer or a bad lawyer. It's a matter if you're going to do it or not.
But it almost seems like Shandro was trying to walk the tightrope of, okay, so I want to play nice with the new premier because I like the things and the stuff, but whoa, we can't go that far. And I mean, it's fascinating to me that the window seems to have shifted far enough that Shandro, who is currently got pending hearings, we can say that again, with the Law Society for showing up in
this premier. Yeah.
He's the good guy. He's the voice of reason. Like, wow.
We'll give her a sticker for that. Let's just be thankful that there was someone in that seat that was willing to push back against her. That's how I'm gonna put it.
Can you imagine if Madhu hadn't gotten that parking ticket? How screwed would we be?
No. I don't know. No. Hi, Minister Madhu. He knows. Hi, Minister.
If he hadn't gotten busted trying to what was it? Mess with the administration, interfere in the administration of justice, which was the finding, by the way. If he hadn't been found in that, he would still be theoretically Danielle Smith's justice minister, the guy who called the police and said, hey, maybe we can work on this. I'm paraphrasing a lot.
Let's be friends. I'm thankful. Let's just be thankful, and it doesn't matter who it is, doesn't matter what happened in the past. I'm just thankful that somebody pushed back.
There we go. Let's talk about insurance. So as we talked about earlier in the show, Alberta, we are number one in the country for most expensive insurance, and it's entirely because of the UCP policies. They took a victory lap this week where they said, hey, you know what? We're putting a pause on not approving higher rates for a little bit. We did a bunch already, so some of you are still screwed. What's the PR spin on this one, Sarah Biggs? How'd they do?
Poor. It's just like their credit rating's just not that great yet. You know, for me as a person, it's really difficult to comment on the insurance situation because we get preferred rates for some professional
Oh,
body
you got the
association.
inside track.
No, I don't. It's just because, my, things. But
Did you call the chief of police, Sarah?
no, I don't do that. I don't even know who it is. I don't even know the non-emergency line phone number. So, but it's too little too late. I would have tried to do a majoration of the market and try to, put a cap and be like, you can, like my husband said earlier, because we're watching you from the living room. My husband was saying that no 18-year-old male should be left alone behind a wheel. And he was paying $3,500 when he started driving. So that was probably, my husband just sent me a text. And yes, we do get special rates through a peg. So
There we go.
He checks me. But no, so, he was paying $3,500 back in the days. And that was probably 2003, 2004. My insurance when I started driving in Quebec was $700 a year for a brand new Cavalier.
What kind of Cavalier did you have?
The 2000 Cavalier brick red 4 doors.
Oh, the 4-door. See, I always had a weakness for the 2-door coupes, like the Z. I think they're Z24s. There was just something straight up 80s, 90s about those cars that I just.
Oh no, my dad would have never got a sports card. Never. But no, so it's too little, too late. It's extremely performative. We're probably going to see a big push from the companies before they cap it. It's just not great. It's not our policy that it's extremely performative and doesn't really make a difference at the end of the day. Why? It's not like if they lost a lot of money. It's not like if they're not making any money, but the market needs to be regulated. Like there's a thing in Quebec. It's called the SAAQ. So it's the auto insurance. It's a provincial program. So when you pay for your driver's license, I think it's $285 a year or every 2 years. I don't know. I've been away for so long. And then you got to pay it's like $300 a year for your plates. Yeah. Imagine that. But it keeps your car insurance extremely low. I think my mother pays less than $400 a year right now for her Honda Fit. There's also a choice on how we want to regulate the driver automobile industry. At the end of the day, we want to keep costs low. Driver's license, $81 or $85 for 5 years, 4 years, 5 years? I don't know. Maybe if we would have, a program like that where the population would contribute more, it's an extra insurance. If you get injured, you get compensation, and there's a whole thing around it, right? It does relieve some of the stress on the insurance industry. But again, as a society, it's a choice. They had to binge like that? Absolutely not. It's totally ridiculous. But was there a lack of oversight from the government? 100%. But I would argue that there was also a lack of government back in 2017, 2018, when the rates kind of went in the poo-poo and they tried to renegotiate the agreements, the electricity rates. So, we're having a lot of problems with regulated, unregulated markets. We want as little government intervention as possible, but at some point we want it to happen.
Because corporations are going to corporation. You can't be surprised when a corporation's like, wait, we can make more money? Well, we shouldn't do that. Of course they're going to try to make more money.
Shareholder bottom line, pocketbook. But
absolutely,
Albertans' pocketbooks are hurting right now, and I think something more should be done.
Do you want to do another kind of serious one, or do you want to do a fun one?
Fun one.
Okay. I can't even get into it. Sir Biggs, did you catch the show opener?
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about messaging. Let's talk about delivery of messaging. Here's the question that I want to ask you. I don't know if I'm going to ask it right. Here's the question. Do you think that Alberta should have more than 2 political parties? You know what? I don't think I nailed the tone on that one.
Alberta need a third political party. It depends on whether or not you're happy with your current choices.
What do you think, Sarah Biggs? Does Alberta need a third political party?
Yes, we do, but not that way. And I feel bad bashing on the Alberta Party. They're trying to get their space. They're trying new things. I don't know. This is just straight up no. The first time I saw it, I was like, what? And then you sent me a text and you were like, what? And I was like, oh my God. It's not something that I would have personally done. But we got to remember that the Alberta Party is, it's considered like a baby party, right? They have limited resources. They don't have the big war chest that the NDP has.
They've been around longer than the UCP. I'm allowed to do this.
They kind of revived from their ashes in 2019, but it's not great. I really feel bad. If the NDP would have done that, or the UCP, I would have bashed them for 1,000 years. Like, what the fuck, guys? Like, wake up. Like, but because it's the Alberta Party, and they're really trying to create their own space, and they're trying to. I'm not going to give them a pass. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying I'm not just going to be as harsh, but the messaging.
So here's the piece that I want to get you to play with. I mean, I think I told you there's some jokes that I'm not going to make on the show, but I made some jokes with you because I was like, oh my God, this is too easy. But here's the piece that I'm curious about. So the Alberta Party posted the very bad video, and I still would love to know, like, how'd that happen? I just can't. But they posted the video.
I had no involvement.
A bunch of people were like, "Hey, that's a literal fake supporter. That's that's a literal not real thing. Why would you do that?" They deleted it, and then Dave Cornier got to the ball first, and he did a little tweet about, "Hey, so this was a thing," and then there was this like a little tete-a-tete, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
I used the French for you there.
Tete-a-tete.
I know, right? And it turned into this. We're going to repost the video for transparency. And I mean, I'll give them this.
They own their mistake.
They own their mistake. We're talking about it, so they're getting some. And there were a lot of people who were talking about it.
I think they did something on City TV this week too, if I'm not mistaken.
I didn't see it.
I'm
not surprised.
I think so.
It was just so rich though. But let's say the Alberta Party calls you and they say, Sarah, somehow this thing made it through our rigorous social media vetting process, and it got posted. People are starting to make some jokes. What do you tell them to do? Keep it up, delete it, make fun of Dave Fournier.
Keep it up, have fun about it, admit you messed up, but not necessarily the way they did.
What would you do differently? That's the piece that I'm kind of curious about, because it was, I mean, in fairness, you're right. The Alberta Party is a smaller party. Their fundraising numbers haven't been stellar. They are working with a lot of volunteers. I don't know how many paid staff, if any, they have on right now. So they're doing the best they can with what they have.
Yeah.
But what would you, other than, they had to pay for it. That's the thing that slays me. I was able to do the
How
video
much
at
is
the
it?
I didn't even look. I was just like, I had the idea of, wait, can we do a show opener with this? And they provided I think it's like 500 letters they'll give you for free, and it's got the branding. But I love them. I didn't even know I got Michael Scott out of that deal. I don't know how the copyright works on that, but it's what do you say? This thing's out in the ether. What do you tell them to do differently?
Own your mistakes. Hold on, the hamster is spinning right now. At the end of the day, you gotta own your mistake. Should have you gotten your leader to do a video after that, to show real people? Probably on an issue that is extremely important right now. The debate about 1, 2, 3 parties right now. The province is so polarized and it's almost black and white at the moment right now. I would have tried to maybe be a little bit more aggressive on a current issue and try to go back and make it. The thing is that sometimes you almost get a home that people will forget. So you own your mistake, you apologize. You know what, guys, we tried something, but our bad, we messed up, right? And let's just have a good laugh and let's move on. Then you get out with a very, very strong message trying to put behind that boo-boo. Let's put it that way. Because sometimes, when we were talking about Jason, like throwing squirrels, right? Let's throw another squirrel. Let's take the attention of it. Don't double down. Just let it go. That's what I would have done.
Do you think there was, we have somebody in the comments here saying, keep it up and produce another one where the AI person talks to the public and describes their motives and their platform and run with it. Do you think that there's almost like a self-satire piece that almost needs to happen there? No, just let it go.
Let it go. They need to let it go. They out to let it go. Like they're sitting. Well, okay. The Main Street poll from this weekend came out with 649 respondents. Y'all, that's a good sample, right? They're at 6%, but I don't think it correctly represents, like, I would say Calgary Elbow or other areas that we might have we might see candidates there, but kill it, just bury it with other content, bury it way down the scroll line. They need to move on, they need to let it go, and that's it, man. Like the stakes are too high these days. And we really need to, with everything that's going on right now, that's the thing. There's so I was thinking about it this week because I was having some meetings. It's like, what? It's so hard to be able to focus on one issue right now. So hard because there's always something happening. It's unfortunate it happened. It is, campaigns made mistakes. Heck, I made mistakes in the past, but just bury it with very, very solid, good, creative, relevant content. Like, don't talk about why you should be the third option. Talk about what's going on. We have rural hospitals are just like non-existent. Good luck if you're trying to give birth this week. I'm so sorry, ladies. Like, I really feel for them. Then you have the school system is just like burning down in flames, and you have like absenteeism starting to go back up. You have, the minister's troubles with the Law Society, emails, her emails. There's a lot of
We're coming to that next.
There's Ezra that just jumped in like a little good scout and just decided to go do the good deed and help the Lord. There's too much going on right now, but hit with real solid and take positions. It's like we're seeing the NDP right now. They take positions, but it's not really positions. It's kind of vague, right? Like, oh, go to our website if you want to know more. No. The NDP needs to stop doing that. We were talking about that a while ago. And they're acting like they're in a position. Funny enough, even Scrimshaw wrote a whole piece about it yesterday.
Boy, did he.
I was like,
boy, did he.
And a lot of us have been saying that for a long time, like Evans Scrimshaw, all due respect to Evans Scrimshaw, like a lot of us have been saying that for a long time. But the echo chambers needs to be busted, and everybody needs to focus on what really matters. Because right now I'm seeing pictures of, Take Back Alberta events across the province, and the rooms are full. So it's either you start fighting or you try convincing people that, well, maybe a third party would be nice when we're 40 days away from the election.
What's striking to me is that, like, one of the things that came up, because we shared the Evan Scrimshaw piece with the F-bomb included, because we were thinking of you. And the reaction was fascinating, because there was a healthy number of people who said, hey, I'm an NDP supporter and I think our policies are great. We have a website. I read it as an NDP supporter, and we have the stuff. So, like, I don't know what you guys are upset about. But here's the thing, and this is what I want you to tell me if I'm wrong, please. If you're an NDP supporter, you're already an NDP supporter, and the people who need to be reached with the things that aren't being reached with the things are the people who haven't decided yet, or the people who might be on the fence.
So there's I would say there's about 25% undecided in the province right now. There's a lot of politically homeless people. All those votes, even, like, there's some use even more. We might go to up to 35% undecided, right? Because it's a deadlock 50-50 right now, and there's some seats in the middle up for grabs, and quite a bit. I can't really talk about the details, but so we need to remember that the average voter starts paying attention to an election about 14 to 12 days before election day. That's number one. Number two, we're so busy that very strong emotional messages that will resonate with the electorate. And they're like, if Danielle Smith says, you know what, guys, we're going to be increasing, I don't know, nursing school spaces by 300%. That is going to resonate with people. Stop saying you're going to fix healthcare. How are you going to fix it? 90% of the people, 90% of the electorate are too busy to go look at a website, Alberta's, whatever their website is, and same thing for the UCP. People are too busy. We are an era of political junk food. So we need to bring very quick, succinct, clear messaging. Okay, you're saying you're going to be fixing healthcare. How are you going to fix it? I, Rachel Notley, as a premier, will be increasing spaces in nursing schools by 300%. Perfect. Or I, Rachel Notley, will subsidize, I don't know, medicine and whatever, healthcare sciences by 75% university, so people can afford to go to school. That's an affordability measure, right? TM on that one, because if somebody uses it, I'm going to send them a bill. We're on the record now, because I've seen a lot of my stuff this week on paper, and it kind of stings a little bit. Anyways, so we need, and that's why the echo chambers sometimes are so toxic. And I'm always going back to the echo chamber, because everybody in your party are going to be like, yeah, good job. We're all rooting for the same person. We're already supporters. You don't need to pump your own brakes. You need to get out there and try to grow your base.
You got to reach people, the people that you don't already have.
But it's like, I strongly believe in local solutions for local problems. Adapt your messaging by different regions, because somebody in Cardston will not react the same way as somebody in Calgary Varsity. And that's something that the parties are having. Yeah, we're going to give it to a few nomination contests in the province right now. They're really, really, really local, and they know how to, reach out. Jesus, guns and baby stuff. Anti-vaxxer, and and that's fine. If it floats your boat, go for it. Fill your boots with it. But we tend to forget about the general electorate. Like, I'm not involved right now in the campaign. Shocking. I'm totally out. I'm doing other stuff. I'm busy. I have 2 kids. I'm behind laundry for about 2 weeks. I managed to clean my kitchen this weekend. My husband decided to make sausage from scratch. So, that's where we're at. I have a raging toddler and a moody teenager. We're all busy. School buses are not working. I'm still driving my daughter to school every morning. I need to pick her up. That takes away a huge chunk of my work day. So I need to catch up later. When I'm on the road, everything's more complicated because our kid cannot take the bus. Talk to the issues that people care about. Stop saying that you're going to be fixing something without saying how. Like, the parties need to fucking wake up at some point. Like, right now, we have Steven Dreschen walk in the woods with an orange hoodie saying, "Oh, just transition bad." And like a few hours later, we have the premier releasing that beautiful letter that I'm sure if we send a bill to the premier's office, I'm sure we would get some money back because boy, oh boy, Nate, it looks a lot like what we've been raving about for a few weeks and takes a total different position. So the right hand is not talking to the left hand, and both hands are not talking to the brain. And that is going to hurt someone at some point. There is no coherent messaging. There's no continuity of messaging. There's no, we're not trying to expand the base. We're not trying to appeal to new voters. We're just like, focus. We're going to be saving your job. I have public health care with me, friends. Yeah, okay, cool. But what are you going to do for me?
Give you 200 Danny bucks.
How will you do it for me? Oh, the Danny bucks. Like, if I would have been like in there, if my candidate would have won, I would have cut a check to everybody for $500, and it would have been much, much, much cheaper than everything they're doing right now. And people wouldn't have to pay back this summer on the electricity rates. Just saying.
Here's I got you brought it up, so I'm going to ask.
Yeah.
It's not as on the nose as the AI avatar for the Alberta Party, but the Devin Dreeshen wearing an orange jacket with the triple vision version of him, I just felt like, do we make a shields up joke? Do we not? I don't know where we land on this one. It was a very, very odd choice. It felt like punching down, so we didn't do it. But it's another one where, like, how did nobody think about what's going to happen next?
I don't know. Everything's so complicated right now, Nate. Like,
it's true.
The parties need to be able to find the green zone, the gray zone. There needs to be a collective. How about we? Probably I'm missing the mark here. We need to find someone who's going to put Alberta first and is going to move Alberta forward.
I hate that Alberta first line. I hate that.
I know, but it has to be, though. Albertans come first.
Ideology comes in a provincial election. That should kind of be a given, though.
But it's not anymore. That's the thing, because the ideology is so strong now. The ideology is just, it has taken precedence on good sense. They're dead set in their ways. They won't do anything different. Some of them think that the campaign they ran 4 years ago was the best campaign they've ever ran. Not great. But we need to reevaluate our priorities. And we need to decide what is important for the province, for us, for the regions, for our kids. Like, enough with that fucking ideology bullcrap. And by the way, we got our freedoms back like a long time ago.
It's true. I don't know if this is a real question or not, but somebody in the comments, you're not allowed to look. No. Somebody in the comments asked, "What are you drinking?" I don't know if that's like a serious question, but it is. It's lemon lime Crystal Light for me.
I drink bubbly and it's not open yet. By the way, I don't drink, but thank you very much.
I drink lemon lime Crystal Light and Diet Dr. Pepper, but I don't drink the Diet Dr. Peppers during the show because it makes me burpy and nobody wants to hear that.
Oh, I found some Coke Zero Cherry.
Oh, that'd be nice.
Yeah.
I'd still get burpy though.
No, I don't smoke anything. I don't, nothing. I'm just totally sober. I'm just tired of everything.
I got one more thing I want to hit on because it was incredibly impactful for me. The article that Dr. Shazma Mithani wrote in regards
Mhm.
to
Burnout.
the moral injury and the burnout. Where's the messaging on that? If you're one of the political parties, if you're the NDP and you're going to trot out Rachel Notley, if you're the UCP, you're going to trot out Jason Copping. If you're the Alberta Party and you've got another $20 to spend on an AI avatar, what's the messaging that you're going to put out to address? Because Dr. Mithani is very clear. There's no easy fixes. There's no simple approaches that are going to work. How do you say to voters, especially voters who are healthcare workers, hey, you guys are super screwed. You've been that way for a while. We know it. You know it. Here's what we're going to do. What does that plan look like, do you think?
That's a whole lot of policy and math and calculations to be done. So I'm gonna TM this here. I don't know. They did a step forward. Again, the government has a storytelling problem, right? They did some really good things this week, but the bad stuff overtook. The bad stuff is like a big fat gray cloud is spewing.
What good things did they do? Before you go on, give me one good thing they did? Because I look at the Shandro hearings, I look at the insurance rates, and it's like, hey, we broke the dish, but we swept it up ourselves.
The announcement for doctors in rural training centers and different, like in Lethbridgemans and all that was a good thing.
I totally forgot about that.
See, that's why I'm here. So, we need to. So I got a question for you. Maybe someone could, because I'm just thinking, I'm putting my policy hat on here. How many physician assistants do we have in the province?
I have no idea.
That could be something we could explore, right? Physician assistants could relieve some of the pressure on the system, increase the prescription capabilities from pharmacists, because very often they are the best. So the doctor is, trained to diagnose, but the best person to prescribe is the pharmacist, right? But, I
think there's a lot of room for pharmacists for
I think there is.
If it's a recurrent prescription, I don't understand why it is if you're taking a chronic medication and it's going to be a medication that you're on persistently for a chronic condition. To me, that should just be everything the same. Yep. Okay. Well, then here you go. To me, that there is some opportunity there to take some load off of the primary care network by saying, hey, if it's really obvious that this is a thing that a person has been using for a long time, because they can pull up your medication history.
Yeah. They're all on Netcare, right? There's that thing called Netcare that everybody integrated. And I think that the pharmacists sometimes would be best to, for an example, let's say a doctor is prescribing something for an UTI, but the medication will create an interaction, let's say, with antidepressants or, a diuretic you're dealing with, or, a whole bunch of medicine. I think that for diabetes management, because practitioner nurses can do diabetes management and all that. But I think that we need to go back to that local social and local problems, primary care networks, to really, really try to, because when you go in the hospital, it's not for a routine exam. Before, when you were in the hospital, it's because you were fucking sick. And now a lot of people, like we saw last winter, increase, mental health, sexual assaults. We have money. Do something, goddammit. We need to increase funding no tomorrow. There's a 6 months wait list to see healthcare specialists in Calgary. I don't even want to see what it looks like in, I don't know, Fort McMurray, because they don't even have a fully functioning hospital right now. But, we need to invest where it could take, like, I was talking to a psychiatrist one day, and she was saying, very often when she's going to do her rotation at Emerge, she's going to have 17 people in rooms. She's going to have to discharge them all, but they're taking a lot of space in emergency rooms because they need to be assessed. And there's no psychiatrist. There's not enough psychiatrists. And, let's sit down with practitioners. Let's sit down with the UNA. Let's sit down with HSAA. Let's sit down with the AMA and really involve the specialists, listen to the experts. There's no magic solution for any problems right now. But, I'm just saying, increasing quality of ventilation in schools would be one of them that could help. But at the end of the day, use the tools in the box that you have been refusing to use for the past 4 years. Open your eyes, increase the spaces of LPNs, increases the spaces. Because an LPN can be trained in 18 months?
Something like that.
Yeah. So, if you increases the space and you increase funding, I think the LPN course is like $15,000 to $17,000 or something. And it's not everybody that can afford that, let's be honest. But if we bring a subsidized, we could see some relief on healthcare workers like in 18 months. But why do we always stuck to, no, we're going to do it this way? And, the doctors will stay no matter what we do. Guess what? They won't. Because they've had enough. I see Dr. Markland on Twitter. I see all those good doctors doing the best as they can to save everybody, but they can't. But what is going to be the final, really the breaking point? What is going to be the breaking point? And I'm worried that we have not reached it yet. And it's going to be much, much, much worse. It's one thing to expand capacity. Like Steve Buick loves talking about, we need to expand capacity. How? You can barely fill your brand new cancer center with nurses because everybody's so burned out. Because, a lot of people they delayed being diagnosed for healthcare issues that they thought it was benign. And now it's a cancer, or their cancer got worse, or their cancer surgery got canceled, or, there's a lot of issues ongoing. Why don't we try to go back to primary care? Like, fun fact, my family doctor, usually when I was calling to get an appointment, I could see him the same day. Now it's 3 weeks down the line. What does that tell you? The system is strained.
You're not wrong. I got to throw a quick little correction into the mix here, just because we got sent an article. To be clear, Ezra Levant was not technically disbarred.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ezra. My bad.
So he was. He had multiple complaints against him with the Law Society, and instead of doing the hearings, he resigned.
Okay, well, it was on its way. Okay, well, I don't feel as bad. I'm sorry. Technicality.
Well, we're pissing off the right wing media this week in a big way. So
I'm sorry.
No. I know what's coming later on in the week.
I know too.
Exactly.
Can't wait.
It's gonna be
That's fun.
what an endless. I'm glad that we're doing it in a way that's lighthearted and that's fun, because if we didn't have the jokes for what we're going to be talking about later on in this week, it's just miserable.
Yeah, like this afternoon, I was like, I'm gonna go rest a little bit, and in my head, I was like, does anyone sensing the same sense of dread that I've been feeling for a few weeks now? Because it's not fun. Like, is anybody worried as much as I am? Like,
well, see, that's why I appreciate what the Alberta Party did for us tonight. I even saw in the comments earlier tonight, there was like, you guys are really like cavalier tonight. And it's like, when you start with AI avatars speaking for political party, that's the show you get to have some fun with. It's not just going to be angry, ranty stuff.
You got to take care of your mental health once in a while. Mental health matters. As we walk into that great Let's Talk, Bell, Let's Talk. What is it? I don't know.
So here's what I'm going to throw out to the comments right now, because we got some people in Twitter Spaces. We got some people on the YouTubes and the Facebooks who are leaving comments. Should we tip the hat? Who should we say who we're talking about this week?
No.
Well, no. Let's see what the comments say. I'm gonna let the democracy of comments. If you want to know which media organization we're doing a deep dive on Wednesday for our Patreon sponsors and on Friday for everybody else, leave a little comment in the thing, like and subscribe, as the kids say, because maybe the moderator's weighing in here.
What, we have a moderator?
We do have a moderator.
Oh,
It's
I
top
didn't
secret.
know.
Yeah. Jason on the drums thinks he's already figured it out. We got a lot of people saying yes. So
Jason is smart, though.
he is smart. And I did post because the finalized version of the script is what I spent all day yesterday and a little bit of today working on. And it was over, I think, did I give you the final number? It's like 4,600 words. It's an essay. And Lynn.
You just want a free sticker.
Free sticker for Lynn. Yep. Yeah. If you want to know the fascinating, it's nuts, y'all. It's absolutely nuts. When I started, so here's the story. I'll do the little preamble, and then we'll give Sarah any last words if she wants them. Here's the story. When the UCP leadership race started up, I started noticing that there was a particular media outlet, Cough True North Cough, that had like unlimited access to Smith. They could get comment from her. They could get interviews from her on an almost weekly, if not daily basis. And I was deeply curious, what's the story here? And I have been for quite a while a little bit frustrated with their particular brand of punditry. And so I wanted to take a little bit of a look. And initially it was just going to be like a little thing. And then it turned into what holy hell is this? Because when you start to go down, like Sarah has been getting text messages from me for the last week or so where I've been like, wait, is this real? Like, am I reading this wrong?
No, you're not. No, you're
it's
not.
It's friggin' insane.
I had to deal with them for a whole summer.
It's absolutely insane how messed up, how complicated, how politically incestuous, I'll say. Oof. The whole thing is, it's nuts. And we, like I said earlier, we do our first field piece in a while. We had a boatload of fun filming it. There was some, I gotta give a shout out here, because with the anniversary of the insurrection and the occupation at Coutts and Ottawa, truckers have been getting a bad rap. But when we were filming, there was a big construction truck that was set up, and they were like, "Are you guys doing a thing?" And we were like, "Yeah, we're doing a thing." And they're like, "Well, here, let's turn the engine off. You guys we're taking up a whole lane here anyways. Do you want to shoot here?" They were absolutely amazing. So
there's people everywhere. We're just
there are good people everywhere.
The loud people are the minority of goobers who have been given a microphone. Sorry, I said goobers again. I can't help myself. But can we talk about the tent on Parliament Hill with the saran wrap?
Let's end with that, because that was
okay.
fun.
So my mother lives in Gatineau. My stepfather was a law enforcement officer in charge of operations on Parliament Hill and security of important people, let's put it that way. And then I sent them the tweet about, because I was telling my mom, I was like, "Mom, you won't believe this." And she was like, what? Send it to me. And then my stepdad just couldn't stop laughing. He was like, "Oh my God, what is this?" And you could see them wrap the saran wrap around the tent, like if it's going to make a dent. And there's really, really, really bad weather in Ottawa right now. They've been getting a lot of snow. So, and my mother wanted to say to everyone that, where I'm from is not necessarily where this is happening right now. So my mom was like, but no, it's just, it's all about matter of perspective, right? So that group thinks that they had the biggest showing. Oh, and props to Arnold Viersen. What's his name? The dude with a goatee that is an MP up north. Viersen.
Yep.
For making a Facebook Live for about 30 seconds before you realized they messed up. But I'm glad to see that there's a lot of temper. But again, they think that it's outrageous because they took precautions for this weekend. Like a lot of the goober media, the G media, and let's call them the G media. They're outraged because trucks are getting towed. No, that dude. You are right in the middle of Wellington. They're going to take you out. They're not going to be put out with your shit and risk it for another 6 weeks. They are done. They went through hell. But again, love thy neighbor is not necessarily their forte. It's only by convenience. Oh, and can we talk about the outbreak in southern Alberta, whooping cough? Get your kids vaccinated.
I just want to, for anybody who isn't on the Twitter machine, this is what I was frantically working on in the corner over here. Here's the Saran wrap shelter that was put together by the folks down in Ottawa today. This is a tweet from Luc Lebrun, who does Press Progress, who, by the way, I'm an Anglophone, don't hate me. Facing a heavy snowfall on Parliament Hill, Freedom Convoy reunion organizers are building themselves a makeshift shelter out of Saran wrap. Because
was the Saran wrap BPA free? Because I'm worried about their health.
Here's my thing. Have you never Canada'd before? Like, I mean, we do this. It's kind of what we're famous for up here. And I would also note Ottawa is it's significantly more southerly.
And it's so fucking windy. Okay, so here, for people
I've never been,
who have never lived in dead of winter in Ottawa or Montreal next to a body of water. Here's the thing. It is when it's -10, it's -25. It is really, really, really cold. And it gets to your bones. Like, I'll take a -30 here before a -15 in Montreal. It kills me. I hate it. I never go to Montreal in winter. You will never see me. But on Parliament Hill, it's always extremely windy because they are at the top of a big cliff overlooking the Ottawa River. Then on the other side, it's Quebec, right? But it is when it winds, it is extremely windy because you have Parliament Hill, you have the Center Block, West Block, and East Block, and then across you have two streets going. So you have the PMO, and then on the other side, it does a Y, and then on the other side, you have the new Senate at the old Central Station. So it kind of creates a corridor of wind that just blast you, chills you to the bone. So people trying to make a shelter with a summer shade and like Saran wrap, I just see you really have to be desperate. I'm sorry, but are you even Canadian?
That's where I go. Like, have you not Canada'd before?
The jokes write themselves. But
they put an American flag up in front of Parliament Hill today, and it's like, I don't even know what y'all are doing anymore.
Yo, if you want to be in America, go to America. Nobody's holding you back here. God, we'll sponsor your visa. We'll make you a farewell party. Just go. You're free. Nobody's holding you back in this country. Why aren't you getting to America, though? Wait, privatized healthcare, police violence that's like gun violence that is just through the roof. So, please tell me how much you hate Canada after all this. Just saying.
Right. Any final thoughts, Sarah Biggs?
Yeah, I'm hoping. I'm not gonna say it. I'm not gonna say it. I really hope I'm gonna get it. I need quiet, right? There's a few things in the work, few things I'm working with in the background, but I need a quiet week. But
how did you work in healthcare and think that word is okay to say out loud? How did you? We don't say that word. We don't say it. You've done it again. Now we're screwed for Wednesday. Thank you very much. I look forward to see what flaming object falls out of the sky on the province, because you had to go and say the word not once but twice.
Can I tell you the story of my first night in healthcare?
Did you say the word?
And at the emergency department.
You said the
So I
word.
was on call. What? Healthcare.
Did you say the word?
No.
Okay.
No. So I walked in. I was like, sweet. Like, I'm 17. I'm cool. I'm one of the youngest. I'm full of energy. I'm like, sweet. The head nurse looks at me. She's like, Sarah, welcome to the night shift. And she gave me 5 body bags. See you in a few hours. That was my first night in the emergency department, folks. Yeah. Good times. It's always so glamorous. But with my friends today, we were trying to determine what kind of there was a pleural effusion on Twitter, and we're trying to diagnose it. I think it's TB, but I'll send it to you. Let me know what you think. I'm geeking out. It's lymphocytic pleural effusion, so I'm thinking TB, but it could be cancer too. Who knows? Anyways, guys.
That's a turn. You should check out the app Figure One. I'm just saying. I don't leave it at that.
What are you looking for, Nate? What?
You know what? I'm finishing the next 2 days are putting the finishing touches on the editing of the True North episode. I'm so excited for this one because we had so much fun with it. And
we've been looking a lot of things and back and forth and financial.
Oh, it's nuts. It's nuts. And I'm really hoping I feel good about the odds that we're going to be able to present it in a way that it's going to be accessible for people. But man, we throw some shade in some very big ways. And there's some big names that get mentioned.
Hey, Junard, by the way, if you're trying to call my cell phone this way, I won't be available.
There we go. I'm not going to make that joke right now. But no, that's my whole thing is I'm going to be focused on getting that thing done and out to our Patreon supporters on Wednesday. And then it'll be going public on Friday for everybody else. And I think it's going to be a boatload of fun. And I hear that the premier's on vacay.
She is.
I don't know how long she's gone for.
2 weeks.
God willing, the things will slow a little bit. I didn't use the word.
I'm tired. I'm really tired. Like, I haven't been that exhausted since I finished the campaign. I can't keep up. It's always constantly on the phone trying to.
Somebody asked me to do this, and I have it preloaded, so I'm going to do the plug right now.
I gotta go away. Bye.
For anybody who is interested in helping us produce the kind of content that we do here at The Breakdown, you can help us do that by signing up to be one of our Patreon supporters at www.patreon.com/TheBreakdownAB, where for the price of just a fancy cup of coffee a month, you can help us continue to produce the kind of content that we do. Plus, you get the warm, fuzzy feeling of knowing that you're supporting a little program that frustrates a lot of people who are in the corridors of power. So that's also fun and rewarding too. And always want to say a big thank you to all of our Patreon supporters, but also want to say, like, one of the things that we really appreciate is we know that there are a lot of folks who listen to the show who simply don't have the financial means to support the Patreon stuffs. That's totally cool. We will always make sure that all of the content that we produce is available, not behind a paywall eventually. We give the early previews to our Patreon supporters, but we always make sure that all of the content is available for everyone on all of the platforms because it's all about having the conversations, and paywalling that stuff just isn't in our particular ethos. So if you're not in a position where you're able to get access to the Patreon stuff, then liking, subscribing, sharing the things, leaving the positive reviews, all of those stuff help us to work our way up through the algorithms to get the show in front of or into the ears of more people. So if you're able to do that, that would be absolutely amazing. Thank you to everybody for listening tonight. Thank you for all of the chat was super active. And that's really, really great to see. I still don't know whether or not the drinking question was real or not. It's just lemon lime crystal light. Thank you to everybody who was listening on the Twitter Spaces as well. One of these days, we're going to get somebody. You don't know how much trouble I went to make the friggin' audio work on the Twitter Spaces, and now that it finally does, nobody wants to say anything. I know that Elon ruined Twitter and everything, but Wednesday, if you got some thoughts, we'd love to hear them. All of that being said, thank you so much, everybody. Looking forward to doing this all again on Wednesday night, and keep an eye out for our very special piece on True North. In the meantime, take care of yourselves, and as always, keep the conversation going.